when we tend to think about our achievements, we include a whole mixed bag of things that we achieved and contributed joyfully and things that we achieved through blood, sweat, and tears, right? So conjure your best recollections. Just start with one experience of joyful contribution where you know you made a difference, but it didn't cost you anything. In fact, as you were pouring energy in, you felt energized in return. That's the real clue.
For too long, talented experts with service-based businesses like coaches, consultants, and freelancers have been losing out to the often inferior competition, and for just one reason: they struggle to communicate the true value of what they offer. This is made all the more challenging if you have acquired a personality or you're not already fluent in how to build a presence online. All you want to do is help people, but you know that staying invisible, offering discounts, and feeling pushed into hard selling isn't the way. And you know in your heart that there are people out there who are searching for your expertise and learned wisdom, if only you could figure out how to connect with them. If you can relate, I'm excited that you're here, because I believe that value whispering can help you to stand out as the obvious choice of service provider for your clients without ever having to feel pushy, be fake, or burn out. It's the art of knowing your true value and then weaving this through every amazing thing that you do, so you can naturally stand apart from your competition and have an impact that matters. Welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, and I'm excited to be your guide in this journey. Today on the show, I'm speaking with Kate Trafford. If you have ever set New Year's goals for yourself or your business and not achieved them, and let's be honest, who hasn't? In the busyness of business, it's easy to let what matters now get in the way of what matters most. However, Kate is going to help us to change that. She is a master coach, a TEDx speaker, and the author of Get There, Love Here, the busy professional's guide to authentic, enjoyable success. She will share with us what she has learned from more than 20 years of helping business leaders and their teams drive for big results and love the journey. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to join the Dream Clients Club. It's my free community that accompanies the show and far beyond, and it's where you can continue to discuss the themes from today's episode, attend weekly live masterclasses with me, access business building tools and training, and be part of a wonderfully supportive community of like minds. You can find the Dreams Clients Club by visiting melittacampbell.com/club. The best part is you get all of this for everybody's favorite price of free. So come and join us at melittacampbell.com/club. Okay, on to today's show. Hi, Kate. It's great to have you with us on the show today.
Thanks, Melitta. It's fantastic to be here.
And I'm really excited because we actually had a conversation and I invited you onto the show months before this rebrand to the Art of Value Whispering for the show. However, now what we're going to talk about is even more poignant to that, because you talk so much about the art of value whispering, but from the point of view from within, really, and whispering to yourself that you have that value, that you can love your life now, you can move towards your dreams and have all this meaning and purpose in your life and through your leadership and all of that great stuff. So I am so excited about this conversation. But before we dive into all of that, I would love it if you could tell the audience a little bit about your story and your journey to get to where you are today.
Oh, well, thanks, Melitta, and congrats on the rebrand. I think it's very exciting. My entrepreneurial journey began when I'd probably done about 10 years, I think, in a corporate role. And I think perhaps like quite a few of your listeners, it was in some ways a reaction to what wasn't working for me in that setting. Right. So I actually made the decision that I was going to start my own business, start working for myself while I was off on maternity leave for the first time. And as I went off on maternity leave, I was thinking about this really enjoyable but kind of crazy life that I was living at the time, working very long hours, thinking about work a lot of the time, really sort of focused on contributing and achieving and all of that stuff that we're all trained for. And thinking, I can't keep doing that. Like that, I've got this beautiful, beautiful baby, and I'm skirting close to the burnout zone. Something has got to change. And so at this point in my life, I jokingly say I had my midlife crisis early, because it wasn't a fun experience at the time. It really felt like a proper crisis. But when the penny dropped for me, that there was this golden thread that had run through all of the work for me that didn't feel like work, right? That there was just this theme that was running through everything I'd done, these experiences that I'd added a lot of value, but it hadn't felt like work. And I got curious about what might be possible if that was my work. What could I create? What could I contribute if I was dedicating myself to those elements that I absolutely adore and that seem to make the biggest difference? What if I focus purely on that? And so setting up the opportunity to work for myself was really sparked from that idea, where I realized that I had been at my own best and had loved my work the most when I had been recognizing and in some way unleashing some kind of untapped potential. And that might have been the potential of the team I was working with, or the project I was working on, or even sort of, quietly mentoring a new recruit or something like that. Those elements where I was spotting this untapped potential and then in some way being a catalyst for that being realized. That for me was pure joy and deeply meaningful. And so when I first started my business, it was doing the kinds of soft skills training and team building, that kind of thing that was bread and butter back then. Going back 24 years I've been in business, Melitta, just celebrated that recently. And that's where I started, training and team building. And then my coaching work came later as a gorgeous spin-off from that. And I've never looked back. It's been an amazing, amazing journey.
Yeah, I love so much of what you said there. And I love this idea of a spin-off, because we talk a lot on the show about how we all evolve as we discover more about what we can do, what's possible for us, how we can generate value, what really sparks joy, what that golden thread is, as you say, and then we take that next evolution. But I like the idea of a spin-off. That's really cool.
Well, yeah, it absolutely was, because, I was doing these trainings, as I say, and people would come to me and they would say at the end, I want to understand this more deeply, or I want to know more about this, or could you please work with a member of my team around this? It's exactly what they need. So it really started out at the level of kind of like almost mini one-to-one advanced levels seminar type thing. It wasn't coaching in the true sense of the word at all. But I found in that experience, which was probably about 5 years into my journey, I was doing that more and more. And I just thought, gosh, if you told me 5 years ago I'd discovered something that I love just as much, if not more, than the kind of speaking and training aspects of what I'm doing, I wouldn't have believed you. But here it is. And you're absolutely right. It was in part an evolution of the situation and the market, if you like, the clients that I was working with. But more importantly, it was something that I was ready for, and that was an even sweeter fit with who I am as a person, that slightly, shall we say, more gentle natured, sensitive, empathic, deep listening person. That's kind of just who I am when I'm not expecting myself to be anything else. And the coaching really was a massive outlet for that part of me, where that was not only okay, but exactly what was required.
Yeah. And you mentioned there that if you told yourself earlier, you wouldn't have believed yourself.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned you've been in business 24 years. Is there anything else now with perspective you thought, oh, if I told myself 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you? Is there anything else that's come out, any other treasures from your entrepreneurial journey?
Gosh, I think one of the things that surprised me in a really delightful way is the way that my audience has evolved, if you like, the people who I most relish working with and with whom I believe I do my most valuable work. And looking at it now with hindsight, it shouldn't be surprising at all. It's like, I was working with newly appointed supervisors and mid-level managers when I started my business. They tend to be the people who would commission me to do that kind of team building or soft skills training work. But of course, my audience has grown with me. I'm in the fortunate position right now that the vast majority of the work that I do is repeat business and referrals or recommendations. So some of those early individuals or organizations that I've worked with, as people have moved through the levels, shall we say, and they've been on their own leadership journeys, then of course they brought me in and I've had the chance to work with in a different way. So I guess the level of seniority that I now operate at is one thing that I would say is surprising. I would probably have said back then, oh no, that's probably not for me. I'll leave that to the executive coaches, and sort of pulled back and shied away from that. Whereas now I relish it. I absolutely relish influencing and engaging at that level because, of course, the impact is bigger on the organization when you're operating at that level. And the other surprise, I guess, would be, writing and publishing my book. I've thought about it for years. I finally eventually published last year, and that was another journey I never expected to be on. Although, again, looking back, the clues were always there. English was my favorite subject at school. Yeah, I went into sciences and engineering. That's a long story, but did I at some level always harbor the idea that I might have a book inside me? Probably, maybe, yes. And that has been one of the most rewarding, challenging, deeply, deeply challenging, but rewarding aspects of my journey so far.
Yeah, and it's a great book. You've sent me a copy. Get There, Love Here.
That's the one.
I think it's just such a great title. I really love it. And I haven't read it word for word yet. I haven't had the time, but I have scanned it. And actually, there was a quote that really stood out for me. It's about halfway through. And you say, do you wake each morning with a profound sense of purpose, excited to begin your day? Can you see a golden thread of meaning running through everything on your to-do list, your meeting schedule, connecting you with what matters most? In short, do you have a dream destination calling you forward, an inspiring goal with the soul? And I just love that. And when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's value whispering. But instead of whispering it out into the audience, you're really whispering it to yourself. And I think that's such an important thing for us all to do first. It has to begin with us. Otherwise, if we aren't fully confident that we're in the right place, doing the right thing, that we are adding value. And I think this is something that's especially important for women, is to know that they're making an important contribution or a contribution they feel proud of, then it's really hard to go that next step. So I love that quote, really stood out for me. And the chapter before that, you start looking at how you find your genius, how you find your value. So I would like to ask you that question, how people can find that sort of golden thread for themselves. So you found your golden thread and it wasn't always what you expected.
Yeah.
And it wasn't clear that it was going to work, but you did it and it did because that was where your heart was. So I think it's something that has a lot of powerful potential for people. But if you could perhaps give them a little leg up or a start point, that would be great.
100%. So the key theme here is authenticity. There's no doubt about that in my mind, Melitta. Authenticity is the key to the most rewarding career journey of any kind. And I think it's the essential key to a rewarding entrepreneurial journey. And one of the things I would honestly say with my hand on my heart is that, having been in business for as long as I have, the highs have been higher, but the lows have been lower, right? So you have to have a way where even when perhaps you have experiences where the joy isn't there, it still feels deeply meaningful. Right? You still get to feel like the right person in the right place at the right time and lean into that challenge with some courage and confidence. But you're right, you have to value whisper to yourself first. Otherwise, it won't feel authentic when you then value whisper to other people. And it gets you out of the way of all of this stuff that can sometimes crowd in about, are they going to think I'm arrogant if I speak to my successes? Are they going to think I'm egotistical if I am telling them about all of this amazing thing that I can do for them? Whereas when you are plugged into your own authenticity and you know your value, then it just feels like you're just leveling with them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is what I can do for you, just like I did here and here. And tell me more and let me sort of see or feel my way into how I might be able to help. All of that comes from being deeply rooted in your own awareness of the value you can bring. But I also think it's the antidote to imposter syndrome. Right? This idea that we play smaller than we are capable of playing, and that would be deeply satisfying and richly rewarding for us if we did step up in that bigger way. It's just the key to a whole host of really good things. And my practical tip for how to find that golden thread is to conjure for yourself recollections, memories, experiences of joyful contribution. Okay, so when we tend to think about our achievements, we include a whole mixed bag of things that we achieved and contributed joyfully and things that we achieved through blood, sweat, and tears, right? Big deals we might have landed, or big projects we might have landed where we've literally kind of crawled across the finishing line and needed to go and lie down in a darkened room for a month or so, which we, of course, never get a chance to do because the next big thing is already demanding your attention. So conjure your best recollections. Just start with one experience of joyful contribution where you know you made a difference, but it didn't cost you anything. In fact, as you were pouring energy in, you felt energized in return. That's the real clue. And if you do that for more than one experience, so it might be an event or a moment in time, or it might be like an aspect of an ongoing role, like maybe 10% of what you were doing felt like that on an ongoing basis. Once you do that for a number of different experiences or memories, what you'll find is these themes begin to emerge, right? And those themes are the golden thread. And once you start to see it, you can't not see it. Like, you'll look back and you'll say, oh, that's why I didn't take that job, even though on the surface it looked like a very shiny thing that I should have been going for. But no, it would have been the opposite of this, right? So both your experiences of real joy and meaning and purpose, and your worst, most difficult experiences of the absence of all of that, your most stressful, most skirting with burnout experiences, are the moments when that was missing. And so, in other words, it's like go on a treasure hunt. Life is constantly giving us clues, but most of us were not trained to look inside ourselves for answers. We were trained to look outside of ourselves for answers. What does the market need? What is the client expecting? Blah, blah, blah. We're trained to look outside of ourselves to define our businesses. And it is a huge, huge missed opportunity when we do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's an exercise that I do with my clients as well. But so often they highlight these amazing things that they're massively talented and that have brought them so much joy and so much wonder before, but they've discounted it. It's like, yes, but like one lady, she made furniture. She designed and created from scratch with her own hands beautiful wooden furniture. She was, but it's got nothing to do with my corporate career. And now she was helping startups with their usability. And I was like, oh, it's the same thing, crafting something, really feeling that design and beauty and making something happen. It's like there's so many parallels. But yeah, I think so often our past experiences haven't felt like they fitted into expectations, or it's felt too easy. well, this was too much fun. This can't be work. I can't make money doing this. I enjoy it too much. Those are exactly the clues that we should be leaning into.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, we're just too focused on the content of the activity, Melitta. So it's like, but I'm not crafting furniture right now. So why does that relate? Well, it relates because it was an outlet for self-expression. And, this lady has an amazing aesthetic eye, exquisite attention to detail, patience, the willingness to experiment and to refine, and all of those qualities and core skills and capabilities are highly relevant to the work that she's doing now and could be elements of her branding, for example, in her marketing. But you're right, we have been conditioned over the years by often very, very well-intentioned parents, carers, school teachers, maybe higher education, formal education advisors, maybe even early bosses. We've been conditioned that work is meant to feel like work, right? And in fact, it's only valuable if it costs you. This is what I call service through sacrifice, right? We have to be paying the price for or any good that comes our way. And it's simply not true, right? For me, feeling that resistance, feeling like I have to grind something out is a clue to, as soon as the need is met, is I need to slow down and say, what was that resistance about? Like, why am I driving with the brakes on? What's going on here? And unravel some of that. Because your most authentic work, ease is a clue, right? Ease, like the effortlessness, being in flow is a clue. Okay, so we tend to be very, very aware of our strengths and our skills and our excellence that's rooted in something we had to work super hard to cultivate. And we tend to be very much less aware of the things that are rooted in our natural talents, our authentic strengths. And so it's easy to miss them or to discount them or to say that can't be worth anything, when actually it is the core of your zone of genius. And beginning to see your work as an outlet for self-expression means it's a complete win-win, because not only will you enjoy your work more and have a meaningful experience along the way, but it's actually also the place from which you're likely to do your best, most exquisite work, which means it's a win for your clients as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there that we need to take that courage and we need to step up. I think that's the point where most people stop. You're like, okay, I like this idea, but I have to be brave. And well, I'm just not.
No, absolutely not. So here's a top tip, right? And let me just say, by the way, bravery, courage is not an innate, authentic strength of mine. It is something I have deliberately and mindfully cultivated now for years, and that's how I'm able to be as brave as I am, if you want to think of it like that. So this idea, let's first of all get past the idea that some of us are brave and some of us are not. It is as much a core capability as it is a trait, and you can cultivate it. So that's the first thing I really would love to say. But quite often, the reason why we say, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not sure I'm in the program anymore, is because we reach the edge of the old comfort zone where everything is known and familiar, and we can probably largely predict and control what's going to happen next. And yes, it's boring and a little bit repetitive at times, but actually, at least we know what we're doing and we know we can deliver. So our self-talk in that situation is, whatever happens next, I'll handle it. Okay. But when we get into unfamiliar circumstances, uncharted territory, then the self-talk can shift. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Something could happen and I might not be able to handle it. Okay. And that's really scary. So the perception from within the comfort zone is that what we would be doing is we'd be trading comfort for chaos. And who in their right mind would want to do that? Right? None of us. But that doesn't have to be the trade, because if you understand that this is the way it works, what you also understand is that what's driving the fear is not the situation, but your self-talk. If you are out there in unfamiliar circumstances, not quite sure you've got the skill set fully in place and all of that kind of thing. And your self-talk in that situation is very different. If your self-talk is along the lines of, oh my goodness, I've never done this before. This is exciting. I don't know that I have all of the skill set. I'm going to learn a lot here, right? I don't know what's going to happen next, but hey, I have a 100% track record of handling everything that's come my way so far, so I will handle this too. Oh, and by the way, I am cultivating my ability to navigate uncertainty with courage and confidence. Wow, where is that not going to be useful in the future? So, in other words, your body is not responding to the unfamiliar circumstances, it's responding to the discouraging self-talk. And one of the very practical, immediately actionable things we can all do is take ownership of that internal narrative, like, the self-leadership aspect. And if anybody is listening to this and thinking, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to do that, it's really, really easy, because all you have to do is this. You imagine someone you really care about. It could be a colleague, a team member, even a family member, somebody you love and want to see thrive. And if they were about to do the brave thing you're about to do, what would you say to them? Because we all know what to say when it's somebody else. So what would you say to them? Say that to yourself, because it's exactly what you need to hear in the moment. And then you're no longer in the chaos zone, you're in the courage zone, which is where all the good stuff happens.
Oh, so powerful and so simple. I love that.
Yes.
And I think, you're right. So often, and I'm sure everyone listening can relate to this, you've taken on a new challenge. So, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. It's so scary. It's such a big leap for me. And then you do it and you're like, well, that was easy. You realize it's not such a big step. Or one time I was telling someone about something new that I was going to do that was really scary, and it felt like such a big leap for me. And they just turned around and said, yeah, but isn't that what you're doing? And I realized, oh, yeah, it's what I'm already doing. I just hadn't seen it that way in my mind, because I think we have such big visions, such high standards, that we forget where we are and how far we've come. And when Damien Gauthier came on the podcast, he talked about imposter syndrome only happens when you are not an imposter, once you have skills, because you forget that you've become so good at what you do, you see how far else you can go. You start to see a whole new world of possibility. You forget that you actually have developed so many skills. You're already amazing where you are. And then you see people with none of the skills who have this kind of blind confidence because they're just starting that journey. They haven't built those skills yet. And you think, gosh, I don't have their confidence. And you would assume they're so much better than you, forgetting just how amazing you really are. So I think that's great advice.
It is, and just one other little distinction that has served me so well that I would offer around these kind of what I call threshold moments, when you feel like you're on the brink of something that feels really big for you, is the fact that it feels big is because it's deeply authentic. Right? It is a moment of rendezvous with your most authentic path. And it may not be the well-paved path. It may not be the path you thought you were going to go down, or even that your clients thought you were going to continue down. But it is deeply authentic. And that means it feels big. And a goal with soul has that kind of growth built into it. Okay, that's one of the things that makes it a goal with soul, is that you get to grow as you go. So in the moment that the spark of the idea comes, what you will probably feel is that your dream is bigger than you are. Right? Which, of course, when you stop to think about it, is ridiculous, because how can your dream be bigger than you when you're the one holding the dream? It's not even a possibility, but it can feel that way in the moment, because in your mind's eye, it's big and it's surround sound and it's glorious technicolor, and you're like, whoa. Now, that moment can be so overwhelming that it feels an awful lot like terror. In fact, I used to say, I know I'm onto something when I see a possibility that both makes me lick my lips in anticipation and terrifies me. So that moment can feel like terror, but it's not terror. It's awe. It's a moment of awe. So having kind of recognized that, and I attribute that to Tara Moore, the author of a brilliant book called Playing Big, is where I got that distinction from. Absolutely fabulous book that your listeners might enjoy. But, she gave me that distinction between terror and awe. And I'm like forever grateful, because as soon as you see it not as a terrifying opportunity, but as an awesome opportunity, an awe-inspiring opportunity, then your relationship with it shifts. And you can be gentle with yourself and say, okay, I'm not quite ready for the fully realized version of this, but pursuing this goal or moving into this space is what will get me ready. So when you see a dream destination, as I like to call it, when you see your dream destination out there, just make sure that you see a thriving and flourishing version of you at that destination. And then get curious about that, because not only are you going to achieve and contribute at that next level, but you're going to evolve to that next level. And that version of you only gets to exist if you do the brave things along the way, the things that you don't quite feel ready for. And I'm not sure we ever feel completely ready to do our soul's work.
I love all of that. And we are at the beginning of 2024. So this is the perfect time for people to take that big dream, build their confidence, take those steps towards it, realizing that this is something really awesome, not terrifying at all. But what else? Is there anything else people can do to make 2024 just an incredible year for them, that's full of joy and meaning, and that they just can't wait to get started?
Absolutely. My number one top tip would be this. When you envision that very authentic success, so maybe think about, what would I like to be true by the end of 2024? How will I be celebrating? What will I be celebrating? How will I have grown? So you really tune yourself to that authentic vision of success, your vision, and not the one that many of us were kind of chipped with by the education system or whatever, right? But your own authentic vision of success. And then obviously, we all know to break that down into more manageable chunks, what I call magical milestones, right? What are the magical milestones that you'll rendezvous with along the way that will let you know? But my top tip, absolutely, is to also tune yourself to the version of you that you are in the process of becoming. And when you look at your future self out there on that horizon, something, and I don't know what it will be because it's different for everybody, but something will strike you about that version of you. For example, you might look out there and say, gosh, she's brave, right? She's courageous, just as we were saying a few moments ago. And then what you do is you take that core essence that you recognize you're in the process of cultivating, of becoming more authentically who you really are. And you use that as a moment by moment touchstone all day, every day. So it becomes a question. What's the brave thing for me to do right now? Send this email? Not send this email? What's the truly courageous version of this proposal if I was to really put in what I believe I can genuinely offer? What would be the bold choice, right? So instead of waiting to the end of the year and then saying, well, did I achieve what I said I was going to achieve through blood, sweat and tears, and grind it out if I had to? No, what you can do is you can say, right, these are my best qualities already. These are my strengths I'm going to play to. And I'm also growing along the way, and just have like a touchstone word or a touchstone idea that guides you forward in these little choices. Because what we achieve in a year is simply the cumulative byproduct of all of the tiny choices that we make along the way. And entrepreneurship does occasionally involve bold choices and, big moves. But the success that I've seen for myself and for many people I've had the privilege of working with actually is much more to do with leaning in to those most authentic choices in the moment, all day, every day. That's the difference that really makes the difference.
I love that question. What would be the brave or bold thing to do now? I'm definitely going to be adopting that. Thank you. And I think, coming back to that idea or the example where I had this big thing that I was struggling to believe I could do, and then my friend pointing out, but you're already doing it. We get there because it's the small moments, those small insights that we act upon, and those little steps we take that we don't even notice are taking us in that direction. As I say, I think sometimes we expect that thunderbolt or that big thing to happen, and that's rarely the case. They say occasionally there is something like that, but mostly it's those small steps, and looking at those milestones and setting those in stone, but then also celebrating them and adding that to our track record. So when we do look back, we can see the evidence of how we have been brave consistently and how we got to where we are today. I think that's going to really be such a catalyst for people. So thank you so much. I remember I moved to Switzerland 20 years ago now, and I skied when I was a teenager, and I hadn't skied for 30 something years when I got here. And I got to the top of the mountain with some friends that skied, and then I realized, oh, I don't know if I still have the skills for this. And I did. I managed to ski down to the bottom, but even though I could ski, I'd forgotten how I was doing it. So I'd lost some of my courage. So I think if we see the skills and remind ourselves, then we don't have that imposter syndrome, as we said, and we build that courage, and we're just a bit more aware of how incredible we really are. So I've loved everything about what you've shared today, Kate. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you feel that the audience would really benefit from knowing that perhaps we haven't touched on yet as they start this brave journey of finding that joy, loving where they are, and going towards that dream goal?
I think there is just one thing that I would add is this idea that, well, as I said earlier, your most amazing entrepreneurial adventure is going to be deeply rooted in who you are and that whole self-discovery journey I've already spoken about. But my top tip would be this: just because there's work that only you can do doesn't mean you have to do it alone. So find your convoy. Right, listen to beautiful podcasts like this, join networking associations or support groups or groups for your professional area of expertise, and get curious, ask questions, maybe find a mentor, right? Just because there's work only you can do does not mean you have to do it alone. So find your people and lift each other up. And that has been the gift that has kept on giving for me over the past 24 years.
Amazing advice. And yeah, in my book, A Shy Girl's Guide to Networking, I talk about creating a success circle of people who get you, they believe in your mission and your passion, and they're behind you, but you're there for them as well. And I think entrepreneurship can be so lonely at times. Having some people to tap into and just reach out to that can like get you back on track, or just have a great conversation and get what you're going through is just so important. So yeah, yes. Brilliant tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Kate, your book, Get There, Love Here, is that something that you get on Amazon? Is there another way to get this?
It is widely available around the world on Amazon, and for people who prefer to listen instead of read, the audiobook version is out there as well, Melitta. I'd love to hear from anybody who does take a look or a listen, and to help in any way possible. If there's any questions they have, any big takeaways, I always love to hear from readers and listeners as well.
Brilliant. And it really is a great book. And if people want to know more about you and your work, where's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, in terms of just the background awareness of what I do, my website, katetrafford.com, is available. But if you want to hang out, for me, it's LinkedIn. I'm not a huge social media person, and that's not a big part of my business model or anything like that. But I do show up on LinkedIn. So if anybody's listening and would like to look me up and connect, I'd love to hear from them.
Brilliant. And let Kate know if you connect with her that you found her on the show. That's always a nice shortcut to understand how people found you. And Kate, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this discussion today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us today. As we've learned, progress and success doesn't come from our big moments of brilliance, but more from the small insights we have along our journey that we act upon. So I would love for you to come and share your small insights from this episode in the Dream Clients Club. It's my free community for authentic business builders like you. You'll find us at melittacampbell.com/club. It's also where you can join me each week for live masterclasses on meaningful marketing, straightforward sales, and to help you confidently step into your CEO mindset. And there's lots more in there besides. But best of all, there's no charge to join us. You just need to go to melittacampbell.com/club and register. There are a lot more tools, tips, and insights coming up for you in the next episode, so don't miss next week's show, or better still, subscribe now so you never miss your weekly dose of inspiration. I've been Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.